Very good evening to all of you. Welcome to today's YouTube live session with me, Surjit Kakkar. Today is Monday, 28th of November 2022. And today's session is about the newest version of our demand and supply zone indicator, version 5.4. It was launched, I guess, about a month ago, but I wasn't able to do a video explaining the new feature and again a quick walkthrough of what features are available on the indicator. So that is what this session is all about. So let's get started with the basic formalities. So make sure you people go through the disclosure, which talks about the representation, risk disclosure, risk involved in the market, and also about the copyrights. So like I already said, today's session is about our latest version of demand and supply zone indicator, which is version 5.4. Now, what are the challenges which people face, specifically people who plan their trades based on demand and supply methodology? So let's touch upon it, and then we'll see how this indicator can help us with those challenges, and then we'll get into the walkthrough of the indicator. So the very first challenge which people face when they start doing demand supply methodology is that identifying the zone in itself is a very big challenge, right? The eyes are not trained to identify these structures. So that is the very first challenge, which initially, as a demand and supply trader, we are not able to identify the zones. Next, what we do is, because we are not able to identify the zones, we start leaning against a concept which is called as boring exciting approach. Now, yes, there is nothing wrong with it, but eventually you will realize that every zone does not match with the boring exciting technique. So that is where again you have a drawback that yes, you have something to lean against, and in fact, the boring candle indicator, which is again available on TradingView, I created is a absolutely free indicator. You can use it for free forever, but yes, it has it has its own limitations. Like I already said, every zone will not match with the boring and exciting technique. Now, the third thing is, if we start identifying the zones, right? Once, let's say, we are been practicing for some time and now we are able to identify zones, what happens is we start leaning against almost every other zone versus just quality demand and supply areas. And that also what it does is it makes us lose our confidence, because when you're trading almost every other zone, not every zone is going to work for you. But when you're already filtering out the best of the best zones and then you're applying your strategy on it, definitely more number of trades will go in your favor, and that is where you also start building up confidence. So yes, trading almost every other zone again does not help. And yes, initially we are not even very comfortable with where should be the proximal line, where should be the distal line for deciding your entry points, your stop losses. That is again a challenge, and we might also make mistakes while drawing these zones. Plus, when we are doing this complete process manually, it is time consuming. And what also happens is that demand supply methodology is not based on one single time frame. In demand supply methodology, we use a minimum of 4 different time frames, where we have to do almost kind of a same process of identifying demand and supply areas for different reasons on different time frames. So when you have to do the same process on 4 different time frames, the challenge becomes 4 times for us. So one of the time frame is where you'll be doing your curve analysis. The other time frame is where we do our zone violations. Then we might also use time frames for refining the zone. So yes, the more number of time frames are involved, the challenge becomes multiple times for us. So what is the solution? The demand and supply zone indicator is the solution to it. The very first challenge which I talked about, which is identifying demand supply zones, the indicator is more like a GPS for you. You don't have to find the zones now. It will automatically identify the zone for you and plot the zone for you on the chart. Next, the indicator does not identify zone based on the concept of boring and exciting candle. Like I said, demand supply is more of a strategy which is based on price action and less based on boring and exciting technique. So the indicator is also based on price action. So based on price action, what it does is it identifies the zones for us, and that makes it much more effective versus just the boring and exciting approach. Next, the indicator also identifies quality zones for you. Now, what kind of quality zones you want, you do have the option to customize the settings. By default, the settings which we have given are for quality zones, but yes, they can also be further customized based on your preferences. So once we get into the indicator walkthrough, you will see what settings are available to you. And yes, the proximal lines and distal lines are also plotted automatically, which is again good for us, because that is how we'll not be making mistakes where the proximal and the distal should be. And yes, because everything is getting done automatically, it is not time consuming. It makes your process much more faster. And the indicator can also be used for multiple time frame analysis. Like I told you, we use one time frame for curve analysis, that is also automated in this indicator. We use one time frame for zone violations, that is also automated. So in a way, the process becomes much more easier, much more faster for us. Now, the indicator will be having a lot of settings. So these are just a few screenshots of all the settings that we have in the indicator. But once we go through the walkthrough of the indicator, I'll be covering each and every one of the setting. And that is what we'll be doing in this session. Now, what is new in the version 5.4? So compared to the previous version, which was 5.3.2, the only one thing that has changed is that in the version 5.3.2, when you were using auto settings for your higher time frame, your intermediate time frame, for your refining time frame, you had a drop down list and you could only select the time frames out of those lists. So we got a request from a lot of people that we are using some unconventional time frames, like somebody might be using a 75-minute chart, somebody might be using a 125-minute chart. So they wanted that if the indicator had the option that they can customize their time frames, which means now you don't have a drop down list based on whatever time frame you wish to use as your higher time frame, you can input that. Whatever time frame you want to use as your intermediate time frame, you can input that. And similarly, whatever time frame you want to use as your refining time frame, you can input that. So that is the only change which has happened in the version 5.4. That is, you can customize your time frames as per your preference now, instead of having a drop down list where you just had a limited number of time frames to select from. Now, the first thing is how to get access to the demand and supply zone indicator. Now, even before talking about how to get access, I'm pretty sure all of you would want to try it out, for which we do have a demo version available. So first I'll explain to you how you can access the demo version. You can try the demo version for as long as you wish. There is no time limitation to it. The only limitation to the demo version is that it will only work on the daily time frame. You will not be able to use on any other time frame. So that is the only limitation. But yes, on the daily time frame, you can use it for as long as you wish to. So how do you get access to the demo version? For that, once you're on TradingView, now in case you don't have an account on TradingView, the link is available in the description. You can open a free account on TradingView. The best part is for for NSE, you get real-time data feed, and you don't have to pay anything for it. So you get your real-time data feed. It is not delayed. So you can use the charts to do your analysis. So first thing, if I want to try out the demo, how do I do that? Very simple. Once you are on your charts on TradingView, just go to the indicator option, and here you can search for demo demand supply zone indicator. So can you see, when you do your search for demo demand supply zone indicator, you will be able to find demo demand supply zone indicator by Surjit Kakar. So all you need to do is just click on it, and you will see this demo version will get applied to your chart. And like I said, the demo version only works on the daily time frame, and currently I'm on the hourly chart. That is the reason I'm getting this notification. Demo version will only work on the daily time frame. So if I change this to daily, you will see that the indicator will start working, and it will start plotting the demand and supply areas for me on the chart. So let's give it a few seconds. Perfect. So can you see, now it is plotting some zones on the chart. So this is how you can get access to the demo version. Now, another challenge which you might now will be seeing is that the chart is getting compressed. So we'll also be coming onto it, how to fix this. But yes, first you can start with the demo version. But if you like the demo version and then you want to go ahead and subscribe for the indicator, what you can do is, you have the link in the description. You can go to our website. We have different subscription options. We have 30-day subscription, 60-day subscription, annual subscription. Whichever subscription you're interested in, you can go for it, and the indicator will get activated for you. Now, once it gets activated, then how do you have access to it? Let me also explain you that. So once we activate the indicator, so when you're subscribing for the indicator, in fact, let me show you. That would be much more easier for you to understand. So once the indicator is activated, this is what you'll have to do. Give me a minute. So this is what I showed you when you want to apply the demo indicator. Once you have subscribed for the indicator, then what is going to happen? Once you click on indicator, you will get this tab, which is called as invite only scripts. And once you get this tab, invite only scripts, inside of it, you will be able to find demand and supply zone indicator. Here you can see I have demand supply zone indicator listed for me. And once I click on it, it will get applied on the chart. So let's give it a few seconds. Perfect. So can you see now it is applied to the chart, and that is how you'll be able to use the indicator. So for the demo version, yes, you can simply search for demo demand and supply zone indicator. For the full version, once you subscribe for it, you will be able to find it under the invite only scripts for you. All right, now coming back to this issue where you can see the chart is getting compressed. So how do I fix that? So that is the next challenge which we'll be talking about, how to fix the chart compression. It's very simple. All you need to do is to fix this chart compression. You will have to come here. You can see you have this icon, right, which is a circle kind of an icon. You'll click on it, and then you can see you have this option which says scale price chart only. So you need to check mark this. Can you see as if now it is unchecked? Once I check mark this, can you see that compression has been fixed? So this is how you fix that compression. Very simple, 2 steps. You just need to click on this circle icon, and then you need to ensure that scale price chart only is check marked for you. Once you do that, that compression gets taken care of, right? So now you have the indicator, be that the demo version, be that the paid version, and your charts are also absolutely fine to be used. All right, so now moving forward, let's go through the indicator walkthrough. So we'll talk about all the options that are available in the indicator. So if we bring up the indicator settings, you can see you have this cogwheel, which is the settings option. So if you click on it, you will see that you'll get all the options that are available on the indicator. So let's walk through these options one by one. So the very first option is what kind of patterns do you want the indicator to identify for you, right? So you can always customize it. So here you can see we have 2 structures of demand. We have 2 structures of supply. Drop-based rally and rally-based rally are the structures of demand. Rally-based drop and drop-based drop are the structures of supply. Since all 4 of them are check marked, the indicator will identify all the 4 patterns. So if I, let's say for example, I uncheck these 2, now the indicator will only identify rally-based rallies and drop-based drops for me. Rest of these zones, can you see here we had this rally-based drop, now it has been removed. There were some zones here, they have been removed. So whatever patterns you will select, the indicator will only identify those patterns for you. The second thing you can also see is when the indicator loads, it takes quite a while. So example, if I go to, let's say, a 5 minutes chart. Can you see once I go to the 5-minute chart, and you can see the indicator is loading, and can you see it takes a while. In fact, what I can do is probably let me go to another script. So can you see it takes quite a while. And in fact, if I go to the daily time frame, we might have even more data on this. So if I go to daily, can you see it is taking a while for the indicator to load. Perfect. So what happens is, as if now when the indicator is loading without this option checked marked, right? Without this option checked marked, the indicator is taking all the data that is available to us. Now, as if now I'm showing you this indicator on a free account. Now, when you have a paid account, you have different subscription levels. On a free account, you get data of up to 5,000 candles in the history. On a paid account, depending upon your subscription level, you can have up to 10,000 or even 20,000 candles as your historic data. So the more the data, the longer it will take for the indicator to identify the zones for you. And you can see on that data, wherever zones are available, can you see even if they are from the past, all those zones are getting identified. So if I zoom out, you can see wherever zones are there. In fact, on SPY, we had more number of zones. Can you see once it will get loaded, you will have all the zones from the past getting plotted on the chart. So let's give it a few seconds. Can you see all the zones now? Even if I hide those candles, you can see it is still identifying these areas for us. So no matter how far back I go, wherever zones were there in the past, the indicator has already identified for us because it goes through the complete data. Now it is refreshing, so this will get fixed in a second once the indicator has refreshed. So can you see? But yes, we are getting zones even from the candles which we do not see on the chart, and that makes the indicator loading a little slow because it is going through all the data that is available to us. Now, if you want the indicator should be loading faster for you, then what you can do is you can choose this option which says plot zones only on visible chart data. So now example, these zones are coming from the past because the data is not visible on the chart. These zones will be removed, and now it will only mark the zones which are on the visible data. So similarly, if I move, scroll out a little bit, if I bring in more data, and if there are any zones on this data, it will plot this. And if I hide this data, now you will see that those zones will be gone. So let the indicator refresh. Can you see it is refreshing? And can you see if I go there, those zones were gone now. And once they are back on the chart, it will now identify on this data. It will not identify from the past. So this setting will make the indicator load a little faster. So if you want to use this setting, you can use it. This is as per your preference. If you want the zones to be plotted on all the data, you can keep it as disabled. If you want the indicator to load faster and only plot the zones on the visible chart, then you can check mark this option. Now, the next thing is, I know most of you might be using a free account on TradingView. Now, what happens is, for somebody who has a paid account, now let me show you somebody who has a paid account, what they can do. Now, somebody who has a paid account, they can have something like this. Just give me a minute. They can have a chart layout where you have all your 4 different time frames. Now, let's say as an example, I am planning a weekly income trade, and for a weekly income trade, I use my higher time frame as weekly, intermediate as daily, lower as 60, and the refining time frame as 15 minutes chart. So now you can see this is my weekly chart, this is my daily chart, this is my hourly chart, 60 minutes, and this is my 15 minutes. So I can have a layout which is a multiple chart layout, and the indicator can be applied to all the layouts with their respective settings. So example, higher time frame we want to use for curve analysis. That is why you can see my curve analysis is enabled here. Intermediate is used for your trend analysis. You can see that is enabled here. Lower time frame is where we want our quality areas. Refining time frame, we might want to see all structures, not just the quality area. So I can check mark this, and I can keep my settings as per the refining time frame. And now what happens with this is that when you are working on any of the time frame, the tools, they get replicated on all time frames, which makes it easier for you to do your analysis really quick. So example, let's say I have a demand zone on my lower time frame. So if I mark this demand area, you can see this demand area gets replicated on all the charts. You can see I have my demand zone right here. I can also see this demand zone on my higher time frame, and I can also see this demand zone on my intermediate time frame. I can also see this demand zone on my refining time frame. So when you have a multiple chart layout, it's much more easier for us because we can just plot it on one time frame and it gets replicated on all other charts. But those of you who have a free account, now what happens with the free account is that if you have to go to the higher time frame, once you go to the higher time frame, let's say in this case the higher time frame was weekly, then I'll have to go to my settings and I'll have to say, enable the curve analysis and enable all demand supply structures. So to overcome this process where we have to manually change these settings, we have given this auto settings option. So what you can do is, same scenario, if I'm planning a weekly income trade, what I can do is I can automate the settings, and I can say that in this case, my higher time frame will be weekly, the intermediate time frame will be daily, the refining time frame will be 15 minutes. So now what is going to happen when I am on the weekly time frame? Can you see whatever my settings for the weekly are, that is all zones and curve analysis, it gets activated automatically. So can you see automatically my curve analysis is getting shown. If I go to the daily time frame, it will automatically show me the zone violations. So here you will see, let it load. Then you will be able to see on the top right corner, it will show us zone violations. The indicator is still refreshing, still loading. Let's give it some time. And this is what I was telling you. If you enable the other option that I just want on the visible data, it will load much more faster. And now this is something which is out of our control, and can you see that is what it says, it's taking too long. So if it gives you something like this, you can just change the time frame. You can again come back to that particular time frame, or you can also enable the other option. Now it will load it much more faster. And let's just give it, can you see now it loaded really quick. So that is what we can do. And you can see once I was on the intermediate time frame, it started showing me my zone violations. That is what we do in the intermediate. And once I go back to my, let's say, lower time frame, which was 60, now you will see by default will be back to quality zone settings. So can you see now we are back to the quality zone settings. So yes, those of you who have a free account, this option basically helps you that you don't have to change your settings every time you're changing the time frame. You can just choose your higher time frame, your intermediate, and your refining time frame. And when you change those time frames, these settings, they get applied automatically. And this is where the change was in version 5.4. In the previous version, you had a drop-down list, and in that drop-down list, whatever whatever options were available, you could only select out of those options. But now here you can see you have this icon. Once you hover your mouse over it, it will tell you what options you can use. Now for minutes, you can use from 1 to 1440, right? That will be minutes. So example, if I wanted to use this as a 75 minutes chart, I could put it at 75. If I want, let's say 66-minute chart, I can give it as 66. Similarly, if I want to go for, let's say, daily and multiples of daily, I can use it from D to 365D. So example, if I wanted to have my intermediate time frame as a 3-day chart, I can give it as 3D, right? So can you see now I'm customizing my time frames based on my preference. Similarly, for weekly, I can use from W to 52W, and similarly for month, I can use from M to 12M. So this is where you know what you need to input in these columns based on your time frames. But yes, this is something now which can be customized, which was not available as an option in the previous version. Here you can use whatever time frame you wish to use, but yes, the limitation is still whether you have a free account or whether you have a paid account. So example, if I change this to 75 minutes, and if I try to go to 75 minutes, because currently I'm using a free account, so if I go to 75 minutes here, I will get this error that I can't use a 75-minute chart because it is not allowed on the basic account. For a 75-minute chart, I definitely need a pro account or a pro plus or a premium account. But yes, if you have those paid accounts, once you go to 75-minute, whatever option you selected, that will get applied for you. All right, so let's bring it back to the time frames to which I have access on a free account. So let's keep it as WD, and this I have to make it as, let's say, 15. Right, now the next option is the zoning method. Now what do we mean by zoning method? If I go back to, let's say, the weekly time frame, let's go back to weekly. So as of now, you can see when the zones are getting marked, they are getting marked using the wick to wick method. So can you see from the wick to the wick, from the wick to the wick, from the wick to the wick? In fact, if I bring in a little bit more history, so you can see all these areas are getting marked using wick to wick method. Now if I change this, that I don't want wick to wick method, I want body to wick method, now you will see a proximal line will get refined. It will go to body to wick method. So let's do that. Can you see now it is using the body? Here also you can see it is using the body. Here also it is using the body. Now it is using the body. So that is an option, whether you want the zones to be marked using wick to wick method or you want the zones to be marked body to wick method. You can customize as per your preference. After that, you have the leg-in method. So for this, let me show you an example. If I go to ACC on the 60 minutes, and as of now, I don't want auto settings, right? So let's disable it. So here you can see the indicator is marking it as a zone for us. Now, if I go to the indicator settings and I tell the indicator that I want to know the name of the pattern, right? But I want to hide the proximal distal value. So okay, let it be there. So can you see it is telling me that the name of the pattern, this one is, because we also have this pattern above, which is the rally based rally. So if I hide this, if you look at this pattern, the indicator is saying it is a drop based rally pattern. Now, some of you might say it's not a drop based rally, it's a rally based rally because it is a green color candle. So this is where I was again talking about that the indicator is more based on price action, but yes, you can always customize based on your preference. So now why it is giving us as a drop based rally, the reason it is giving us a drop based rally is because technically this candle is a bearish candle, right? So we moved up, but then you had a more of supply, due to which we started moving down. So the bears came into control, and that is the reason prices they moved down, which makes this candle as a bearish candle for us. And those of you who have taken my course, you know that based the way we try to understand whether a candle is bullish or bearish, this will fall under the category of a bearish candle. So since it is a bearish candle, the indicator is marking it as a drop based rally, and for drop based rally, that is where the distal line should be from, and that's why you have your distal line here. But if I change my settings that I don't want the leg-in method, so that's basically your leg-in. So leg-in method by default is by the candle type. By candle type, we mean whether it is a bullish candle or a bearish candle. In case it is a neutral candle, then it will do it based on the color. But if it is bullish or very bullish, bearish or very bearish, it will do it based on the candle type, not based on the color. But if you want the zones to be marked based on the candle color, you have that option. You can choose candle color, and now you will see it will shift our distal line a little higher, and now it is calling it as a rally based rally because the color is green, so it is taking it as a rally based rally structure. So that is something you can customize based on your preference, whether you want based on the candle type, which is bullish bearish candles, or whether you want to mark it based on the candle color. In that case, it will be a rally based rally. I prefer to keep it as candle type. Now, next thing is, do you want the zones to be drawn on the chart? Obviously, I'm pretty sure everyone would want that, but just in case you don't want the zones to be drawn, you just want that I should be able to see the zones based on the color of these candles and wherever the zones were in the past, because now I have marked this option, which is display pattern name. So if I disable it, these labels will vanish, but you can see the colors are still there. So if you don't want the zones to be drawn on the chart, you just want to have those colors, you can do that, but I'm pretty sure everyone would want to keep it as enabled. But yes, you do have the option if you want to keep it as disabled. Now, the next thing is, do you want to see tested zones or you don't want to see tested zones? So if I zoom out, in fact, what I'll also do is I'll change the settings that I want. Okay, so we have some tested zones here. So now you can see we have demand in two different colors. One is in green, the other one is in cyan, and supply, you can see we have it in purple color. And what I'll do is I'll say identify all demand supply structures so that we have more number of supplies. So you can see some supplies are red in color, some supplies are purple in color. So the reason for these colors is basically, we are separating the or identifying the fresh zones and the tested zones. These colors can be customized. By default, a fresh demand area will be green in color, a tested demand area will be cyan color, and similarly a fresh supply zone will be red in color and a tested supply zone will be in purple color. So that's your color coding, which is the default, but yes, these colors can be customized. So as of now, you can see I have selected show tested zones. That is the reason you see the cyan and purple zones. But if I say I don't want to see tested zones, now the indicator will only identify fresh zones for us. Can you see only have your fresh demand areas, you only have your fresh supply areas on the chart. So again, depending upon your preference, you can keep it whichever way you wish to. Next, identify follow through pattern. Now, what do we mean by follow through pattern? Let me see if I have an example of it on the chart. Do we have any example here of follow through? Let's just verify this, because this might be an example of follow through pattern. Perfect. So now if you look at this demand area, can you see which is a drop and a base and a rally? You can see the very first leg out is not an explosive move, right? You can see this candle is much more stronger. This candle is not showing me a lot of strength. But what we can see is that after this candle, that strength continued. So this is what we call as a follow through pattern, where you have the first leg out followed by another leg out, which is continuing with that strength or which is continuing with that weakness. So if you want to see these kind of patterns on the chart, you can keep this as enabled. But if I disable it, now you will see it will not identify this. Now it will only identify zones where the very first leg out is really nice and strong. Now, how strong you want these settings can also be customized. We will be talking about it as we move forward, but that is what a follow through pattern basically implies. A pattern where the first candle might not be very strong, but we have a continuation of that move. That's a follow through pattern. Now, if you want only follow through patterns and you want to hide single leg out patterns, so I can check mark this and you will see all these single leg out patterns are now removed from the chart, and you can only see the follow through patterns on the chart, right? So if I click OK, and let's see if I zoom out, you will see now it will only identify the zones which are based on follow through, not the single leg out patterns. And can you see that's the only one which we have as of now on the chart, and then the next one is right here. So you can customize this. But if I now say I don't want to hide the single leg out patterns, now all the single leg out patterns will also be visible on the chart. So that is also something you can customize as per your preference. Now, if you want zones which are based on overnight gap, you can even click on this. Now it will identify zones which are based on gaps. You can see quite a few zones have been added to the chart. If I disable it, can you see quite a few zones now have been removed? So if you want zones based on the gap, you can keep it as disabled. Now, how do you want the proximal line when it comes to the gap zone? Do you want it from the price where it gapped, or do you want whatever the option above was, which is wick to wick or border to wick? You can customize that. And now let's say I just want to see the gap zones. I don't want to see the zones which were not created because of gaps. So I can say hide non-gap zones. And now you will see all the zones that you have on the chart are the zones which were because of gap. So yes, you can also do that on the indicator. But I generally keep it as disabled. Now, the reason I keep this as disabled is we know that almost every other day, what is happening is every stock gaps up or gaps down, which creates too many zones on the chart. So I identify those zones based on my experience. Keeping it enabled can clutter a chart a lot, and that is why I generally keep it as disabled. Yes, if you want to keep it as enabled, you can do that. And the next thing is, if you want to see all the structures, as of now, you can see the default settings are that the indicator is only identifying quality zones for me. Quality zones, now what do you mean by quality? We'll be touching upon it as we move forward. But if I click on all structures of demand and supply, now you will see the indicator will identify quite a few extra areas for us, which might not be quality zones, but definitely they are structures of demand and supply. So that is something also you can customize. I mean, if you want to use it, you can enable it. Otherwise, you can keep it as disabled. Now, talking about the quality settings, right? So when this is not checked marked, right? So again, when this option is not checked marked, that is the time the indicator is identifying zones for you based on your zone settings. Now, what are the settings we have? The very first one is how many number of candles do you want in the basing? So the default option is 3. Minimum you can go is 1. And the maximum you can go is up to 6. So if I push it down to 1, now it will only identify zones where you have only 1 candle in the basing. If I push it up to 6, now it will identify all the zones which have up to 6 candles in the basing, which can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, whatever it might be. So you can customize how many candles you want. Now, when you talk about a single leg out pattern, right, I showed you the difference between a single leg out pattern and a follow through pattern. So if it is a single leg out pattern, what kind of strength would you like to see? So by default, the option is selected as explosive. If you make it as good, it might identify more number of areas for us. You can see now it is identifying more areas. If I give it as strongest, now the number of areas will go down because now it will only be identifying the strongest of the moves, not even a good move or a explosive move, even stronger than the explosive move. So I like to keep it by default as explosive. And similarly, when it comes to a follow through pattern, what kind of strength the very first leg out should have and what kind of strength the next leg out should have, that is also something you can customize. I keep it as good and good. Now, when it comes to multiple time frame analysis, if you like I was showing you the other example where I had a 4 chart layout, that is where if this is the time frame where I want my curve analysis, I can enable it. You will see now it will start doing curve analysis on that particular time frame for me. Otherwise, I can keep it as disabled. This is basically the colors you want. So you can see that's the curve high color, that's the middle of the curve color, that's the low of the curve color. So you can customize these colors. If you want your zone violations, which we use on the intermediate time frame, then you can enable it, and you will see on the top it will start telling you your zone violations. This is where you can customize the color of the candles. So example, you can see as of now the basing candles are getting marked in blue because that is what the default color is. Now, if the leg out is a rally, what color you want? If the leg out is a drop, what color you want? Both the colors can be customized. Similarly, when it comes to your fresh areas of demand and supply, what should be the color of the demand zone? Now you can see my demand zone, if you look inside of it, right, it is marking as a zone for me, but inside of it, it is completely transparent. That is what I have kept. But let's say if you want your zones also to be colored, you can change the opacity, you can select the color. So can you see if I say, okay, give me 35%, now you will see these demands will have, let's give it a few seconds. Can you see? Now it is getting filled with that particular color. I like to keep it as transparent. That's my preference. But yes, if you want some colors inside of it, you can customize that. You can customize these colors for the fill, be that your fresh area of demand, be that the tested area of your demand. And that's the border, right? So you can see that's the border. So I only use these borders. You can customize the color of the border. You can, customize the opacity, right? All these things can be done. And same applies to your tested demand areas. Same thing applies to your fresh supply zones, tested supply zones, border of the fresh supply zone, border of the tested supply zone. And the next thing is, if you're using borders, how wide you want the borders to be. If I push it down, the minimum can be 0. So now it will, it will be off the chart. If I give it as 1, now you'll be able to see a little thin. If I make it as 2, a little thick. And similarly, if I keep pushing it up, the maximum you can go is up to 10. And now you can see the zones are getting marked really, really wide. So this is something you can customize as per your preference. So that's your border width. Next, if you want the pattern names to be displayed on the chart, I generally keep it as disabled, because if you enable it, what will happen is it will show you all the zones from the past. So if I now zoom out, and I think my settings is this. So if I disable the setting, now you will see it will identify all the zones from the past, whether they are violated or not, because this indicator does not repaint. Once the zone is violated, it will still remain on the chart. It's just that these horizontal lines are removed, but it's not that after the zone is violated, it is removed from the chart. You will also be able to see all the violated areas from the past. right? But yes, the horizontal lines are removed, because if the horizontal lines are not removed, the chart will be filled with all these horizontal lines from the past of the violated area. So again, it's not repainting, but yes, it is definitely removing the horizontal lines so that the charts are kept neat, but you will be able to see where the zones were in the past, which the indicator identified. So if you want these labels to be there on the chart, you can enable it. Now, when you're enabling it, can you see it is showing you the name of the pattern and the proximal distal values? Let's say you just want to see the pattern name, not the proximal distal values. You can check mark hide proximal distal values. So now you will see it becomes a little clean, right? Next, if you want the proximal distal values to be displayed inside of the zone, then you can check mark this. And now you will see the proximal distal values will be inside of the zone, not with the label, right? So that is also something which can be done. Okay, let me do this. So I'll disable all these three. Right. Next thing is when you are getting these, in fact, I'll have to enable this to show you the setting. So can you see when I'm enabling this for the demand zone, I'm getting a label in green color. So that's the customization of the color. And you can also customize the text color. Similarly, for supply, you can customize the label color and the text color. And when it comes to proximal distal line colors, this color, if I bring this in, can you see the one which is inside what color you want? The reason is you might be using a black background, and if the default setting is black on a black, you'll not be able to see black. Then you'll have to change the color of that text. And on the top right corner, you can see display current settings. So it tells you what settings you have selected. So example, if I change this to, let's say, all demand supply structures, so at least I will have this at the back of my mind that currently I'm not looking at quality areas, I'm looking at all zones. So that is what it tells you on the top right corner, what is your current settings, right? If you don't want this, if it is, let's say, distracting you, you can always disable it, right? Now you will see it will be removed from the chart. It will not be there anymore. And at times what might happen is because of this, you might have all structures available, all demand supply zone structures, and you might be thinking that, maybe all these zones are quality areas, but that text on the top was too much distracting. So that is where I have given you an option which says display exclamation mark if all demand supply zone structure is selected. So what is going to happen is if you are looking at all structures, not just quality zones, at least you will have this small notification on the top right corner that you should have this at the back of your mind that currently the indicator is not showing you quality zones, but as soon as I changed it to quality zones, you will see this will be removed from the chart. So that is just as a reminder to you that now it is only showing quality zones. Let's say by mistake I changed it to all and I forgot it, but at least this will give you that notification on the top right corner that you're not looking at just quality areas, you're looking at almost all structures of demand and supply. So that is what this setting is all about. All right, so that was the complete walkthrough of the demand and supply zone indicator. And I can also see that I have some questions in the chat box. Let me just quickly go through these queries and then we'll be ending the session. So please do something for options so that we can apply this for options contract, or can it possible to create this indicator on Zerodha platform or any other platform where options contracts can be seen? See, again, when it comes to demand and supply methodology, it is never applied to the options premium chart. It is always applied to the underlying chart. So even if you're let's say trading options, this is still going to be the same demand area for you, and you will be planning your options trade based on this demand area, not any zones on the premium chart. So that is why you don't require this indicator on the options premium chart. It is always on the underlying chart. Okay, I just request you, can you explain in Hindi, because a lot of people need to knowledge in Hindi. Absolutely, Samir. What I do is whenever I make my videos, I make the videos in both the languages. So currently we did it in English, and before we end the day, I'll again be doing this session. I'll be doing it in Hindi so that I can explain this complete thing in Hindi as well. So I'll be doing it, not to worry about it. All right. Is it a free indicator or is it paid? The demo version is free, but it will only work on the daily time frame. But if you want to use the indicator on all time frames, it is a subscription based indicator. You'll have to subscribe for it from our website. The link is available in the description. All right. Scanner settings, I'll be doing a different video on scanners. That is where we'll be getting into what scanner is all about, right? But this video is only for the indicator, so that is going to be a different video for us. All right. The zones. Okay, so can you please explain the zone violation message, and also can you move this label box to another area of the chart? No, that cannot be done, but violation means, let's say, we have this demand area. So eventually what might happen is maybe we might get some bounces, or maybe straight away the zone gets violated. So that is a violated area where the zone now has been violated. Prices have gone beyond it, but it still remains on the chart. Can you see this one? Just gave us a small bounce, but after that it got violated, but it is still on the chart. So that is what I meant by the indicator does not repaint. Whatever was identified by the indicator will remain on the chart forever. It's just that those horizontal lines are removed. And the reason is, if these horizontal lines are not removed, then you will also see this, 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 and those lines will be extending all the way to the chart, which will make it much more difficult for you to use the indicator. So that is why only the horizontal lines are removed, but whatever was identified in the past will remain on the chart. Perfect. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for joining in. I will be doing the same session in Hindi, and I'll try to do it today itself. So until we meet next, enjoy your Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.